When we return to our planet, the High Court may well sentence you to torture.
He likes movies, we like movies. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world. SeptumSin versus the world.
I'd buy that for $1.
All right. We are back with SeptumSin versus the world. I'm SeptumSin. This is Kotobuki Jake.
Hi.
And we are here to bring you part 2 of our influential anime. We have a lot of anime that we have had influence us over the years. We could probably grab even 10 more for a third, or even a fourth, that we could say has influenced us in one way or another. But we're going to bring the lists to a close with this for now.
It'd be good to revisit in a year or so.
Maybe so, yeah. And just throw in some more. This list, I had a lot to look at and a lot to choose from. But I decided I'd take a number of them that were my firsts and most influential. Because there were a lot of them that should possibly have made the list. But, you know, my last list was very dedicated to early anime that probably none of us thought were anime at the time, except for Sailor Moon, which ended my list. But this is going to be all recognized anime. It's going to be a really cool thing, and I'm going to get started, really, I guess, right now.
Sounds good.
So I'm going to start with the honorable mentions, as you ended with the honorable mentions. So I've got 2. One of which is Ninja Cadets. I have Ninja Cadets because it is the very first anime I got that I hated. I actually do not like this. I did not like this when I saw it. I did not like it when I saw it the first time. I did not like it in dub or sub. I just don't like it. So, Ninja Cadets and Body Transfer. My very first hentai anime was
I didn't even go there.
was given to me by a friend. It's actually the only hentai I own. Though I might end up getting like La Blue Girl or something like that in the future as sort of like important hentai, if there is such a thing.
Oh, well, depending on who you talk to, there definitely is.
So this one's kind of interesting. They were given away. A friend of ours was given away a lot of their ecchi stuff, and so one person got the hentai game. I got the hentai. So
hentai.
But that's all for the honorable mentions. All right, I'll spend a little bit of time on the main ones. Well, honorable of sorts. Alright, so we got a lot to go with. So we were talking about my journey with anime with friends. And I've talked about this before with this particular series. I was first really introduced to anime through manga. If you, or at least my understanding is anime as anime. Because even Sailor Moon I did not think of as anime at the time. Now, I was sent over to the comic shop. I was big into superhero comics back in the day. And a friend of mine's brother wanted me to pick up a couple issues of this comic form, which was Ranma 1/2. And I loved it. I ended up keeping the comics that I bought for him. And ended up getting into the anime. Now, I did not get into the anime with these nice Blu-rays or even the DVDs, but with video cassettes. Now, I brought 3 in particular because these 3 were the ones that I watched the most in video. Season 1 and 2 were the ones that were most prevalent in rental situations. I would rent, I would copy the tapes. At the time, that was what you had to do, because you couldn't really buy them. We couldn't afford them. They were like $35 for 2 episodes. is just too much at those times. This is Aniplex, back when I was a high school kid. That wasn't going to happen. And, of course, the OVA and the movies. They were also there. And this was also my first experience with real anime movies. So I was really happy to get a hold of these. At first, in the big releases that were almost $100 a piece. And then eventually in these, which were nowhere near that.
I'm remembering correctly that this does not include the recent OVA special, right?
No.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, it was a series. It was my first romantic comedy anime. My first, well, I guess romantic comedy / kung fu anime. My first exposure to Rumiko Takahashi. It was a lot of first, and it was the one that got me into anime. So I could not have this list without that.
Come to think of it, I probably actually encountered that manga way before, without even realizing it.
Yeah.
Because I discovered manga its stories way back in the day, but I just flipped through it and I'm like, there's no color, and I lost interest. But I did notice the nudity. So it probably was wrong.
Lots of nudity, yes.
But it was like no color, and I like some colorful comics. Later on, I was like, you know, black and white's not so bad. But
Yeah.
but yeah.
It is, and the next one was in that theme. It was my first medieval-styled anime. I was big into D&D at the time, and so were my friends. And we all came upon this when we were looking at the rental store. Again, we couldn't rent anime back at home where we came from. We were too small to get that. So only when we journeyed over here to Central Virginia were we at a big enough city that we could get it. And Stories was where I was able to get it back then. What they did is they took the main one and then they copied it onto VHSs and then rented those copies out. Which is why I didn't feel bad about copying the copies.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Yeah.
So, the one I'm talking about, of course, is Slayers. Now, this is the first 3 series. Though really the first series was the one, or really the first part of the first series, was the one that got me into this originally. We got it on the VHS for the first 4 episodes. And it really was cool. I really loved seeing sort of the D&D type world expressed in anime in a comedy situation. It just was really cool. It's about this female sorceress, Lena, and her companion, Gowry. And you can see there, as they go on adventures through a fantastic world, fighting evil wizards, dragons, and unlocking ancient mysteries.
And Mazuku.
It also had one of my favorite anime themes at the time. I had 2 favorites. One was was Little Date from this, and the other one was gosh, what was it? Something again.
You talking about the first or second?
Yeah, the first season.
Get Along.
Get Along, which I just love for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And
because it's Megumi Ashbar and she's awesome.
continued to like it. Also, I was introduced to my favorite voice actress, which, darn it, I forgot her name.
Megumi Ashbar.
No. The English version.
Lisa Ortiz.
Thank you, Lisa Ortiz, which to me is still the best Lena inverse. I've heard it in the Japanese, but to me, Lisa Ortiz is the best Lena inverse. Alright, moving on. Well, of course, we were teenagers at the time, and teenagers like 2 things typically: sex and violence. And anime had a solution to us, especially in the late 90s, because a lot of anime that was taken to America was about sex and violence. And what better anime to talk about sex and violence on your previous list? It's on this list, which is Ninja Scroll.
Shiny.
Yeah, shiny Blu-ray.
Mm.
I haven't opened this copy yet. This had everything. It had the story of the ultimate warrior hero as he fought monstrous creatures in bloody battles. And, of course, it had lots of ninja sex.
Yes. Never mind that it didn't have any good writing or...
I was a teenager at the time. I didn't need good writing. I wanted sex and violence. This is what we got.
Right.
I wasn't watching art house films back then. And to this day...
Wait a minute. When did you start being shown Crumb every few
I was probably
weeks?
having a disdain for art house films back then, too. But this, to me, was an awesome movie experience. It's probably my first actual anime movie experience. I mean, and definitely my first hardcore action anime. This showed me that anime could be bloody, it could be our hardcore, and just as, if not even more so, than live action. Still love my Ninja Scroll. Or at least nostalgically, anyway.
See, let's see. Blood, sex, violence, no art. Blood, sex, violence, all art.
That came much later in my time. That was long before I hit a lot of... I had a lot more things, and it didn't really do many firsts. So it was... it re-hit a lot of tones that I had hit before, but much better. I do agree. This isn't things of my favorites, though I have hit some of my favorites. This is about...
Right.
First and influencers. Ninja Cadets may be a terrible anime, but it definitely influenced me, showing me that anime can be bad. You had that experience with Ninja Scroll. So my next few, and I had a lot that I got through this, but I only picked 2 because of what they were exposing me to.
Right.
Which was sci-fi. I talked about USA being one of my things for anime, and the other gateway was the Sci-Fi Channel. They had an anime morning that they showed on the weekends. And they showed a lot of anime, some depressing anime, some very bloody anime, and some kind of messed up anime. I remember watching Vampire Hunter D, and where they didn't edit out the boob, and they didn't edit out damn, but they edited out God in front of damn. Yep, great censorship. But that's not the one I'm going to show for my first sci-fi feature. My first sci-fi feature would be Venus Wars. I really debated between this and Vampire Hunter D. And because they're kind of sci-fi anime. Whereas Vampire Hunter D kind of falls on the sci-fi fantasy end.
Right.
This one is just my first real pure sci-fi anime.
It's much more of an action-oriented one. Yeah.
And so is Vampire Hunter D, in all fairness.
Yeah.
This one was really cool to me. I loved the sci-fi action films, live action at the time. I loved Star Wars. I liked... a lot of these types. I even liked Total Recall to a point. And this just was really cool. It was about this group of people on Mars dealing with oppressive governments, revolutions, stuff that most people picked up from Akira. But I hadn't seen Akira. I saw this. And a lot of these people who were racing on bikes. It is not the best. But... because of its place and when I saw it, this still is very special to me. And I'm glad I got a physical copy. The other one was my first art house anime. So we're talking about art. And this one still has a special place. And that one is Robot Carnival.
Oh.
Another sci-fi, but definitely... very different from Venus Wars. Not so much action-oriented. It was kind of a collage of different features by different artists and writers. So kind of my first anthology as well. But very cool, very different takes on robots. And still holds place for me as one of the cooler artistic anime. Has some really awesome background music. I would like to think the soundtrack, I would have purchased the soundtrack because it is a really cool soundtrack. And I agree with their thoughts. Haunting and powerful. A cavalcade of creativity and execution. Execution in particular. Especially the opening sequence where the title is going around murdering a bunch of people at the beginning, which I find highly entertaining. You even see a little bit of that right here. I can't wait to open this up. This is actually one of the first American released Blu-rays of it. Otherwise, it's just been Region 0. So I'm actually really looking forward to finally having this official one open and in my player. Matter of fact, this is the first time I'm showing it here because this was on my pickups list.
Cool.
Alright, moving right along. You saw Robot Carnival, didn't you? I showed you that one.
You did. It was interesting.
Yeah. Well, would you call that an artsy one?
From what I remember. I don't remember.
Another one you had a hard time probably remembering at the time, and to me, I have a hard time remembering which one I saw first. Because Cartoon Network was where a lot of people of the current generation of millennials had gotten their first real glimpse of anime through Toonami or through Adult Swim. I was in early college, at the same time you were in early college, is where we met, and I would watch some Adult Swim. And I was introduced to a series about a guy and a lot of girls. My first harem series, so to speak, which is Tenchi Muyo. Or No Need for Tenchi, if depending on how you look at it. Now, I really liked this series. I got to enjoy some of the manga. I got the manga back here on my shelf, and I do have the complete collection. This was a very unique anime, and the fact that, and this is out of print by the way, Pioneer, you can tell, I still love this set, though they have re-released it many times. This one actually was unique in the fact that you were supposed to watch this, then read the manga afterwards, because the manga takes up right after this. It's usually you read the manga first and then get introduced. But this one actually started off in the anime first before the manga came out. So it's very unique in that fact. If you start the No Need for Tenchi manga, you'll actually miss this part. They just assume you've watched it. But because I was uncertain, because they were also showing this at the time, this is Tenchi Universe, which is kind of a rehash of the series. They kind of took it in a slightly different direction, but also took a fairly serious tone to it. Which I like it. I used to have a really big set for this, but I downsized. Because it was, I mean, it really was big. It was like that big. And so, yeah, I was kind of glad I got it downsized. Alright, moving along.
And as to this day, I'm still not fully involved with Tenchi. I've seen a couple of the series, but not all of them. Like I said, the first one I really watched all the way through is GXP, which is it's a spin-off.
An awesome one, though.
It's a fun spin-off. And it has, again, a kick-ass opening theme song. Yeah.
But and surprisingly, because it is an awesome harem series. So my next one was first introduced to me in grad school. And again, I was starting to get used to a lot of things. This is my first oddball series. Because I don't think I even introduced you to Excel Saga until I was in grad school and coming to visit. Because you were in your own apartment at the time.
Probably, yeah.
So this was my first oddball series, which is Kodacha, or Kodomo de Omocha, translated as child's toy. But you didn't think I could do it.
Kodomo no Omocha.
So this particular series stars a small child called Sana, who was adopted by her eccentric mother, and her adventures as a child TV star.
A mother of many hats.
And also as her adventures go through school. Only 2 seasons have been released of this series in the United States, with 2 seasons still left undone. There's 100 and some episodes, only like half of that have released. This is the better of those. And for me, this is season 1, because this is what I was originally introduced to and how I was introduced to it. And still my favorite of the seasons. It, again, introduced me to some just oddball concepts. And as the series goes, still one of my favorites to go back to. I mean, I think I showed you this one, didn't I? Do you have the Babbitt boxes? You've got the better sets than I do. But still heavily out of print. They need to be back in print. Not only that, bring it back in print and put it like put it all in there. I actually really like the English voice acting in this. You can see basically Fruits Basket and this have a lot of similarities. Matter of fact, they brought back a lot of the Fruits Basket alums to do the dub for the new Fruits Basket series. Interesting enough.
Especially because they pointedly did not do that in the original.
Yes, well. So let's talk about downloads. My first experience with anime downloadable, because anime, we take for granted these days that anime was anime's in wide release. Most new anime comes to America very quickly, but that's not how it was back in the early aughts when I was really getting into anime. And this, so you had to, in cases, download, and usually it worked in this way. You downloaded stuff that was not licensed. If it wasn't licensed, they didn't come after you because they have no way of selling it to you in the first place. So that's why you would wait and do that. And fan subbing was a huge thing. It still is, but it's definitely more in the shady area of things these days, because most anime, unfortunately not Zetsubo Sensei or Cheeky Angel, or even Mermaid Scar, as was mentioned earlier on, but still the majority do get releases. And for this, I was introduced to Naruto. And this was, when I first got introduced to it, somebody actually bought some burned discs online, because it was before I could download on my computer, because my computer sucked at the time. I watched this much all in one sitting, which is, still, it's not that much.
How far does Volume 2 get through?
Up to the beginning of the Chunin exam.
Beginning of the Chunin.
So, I got my first introduction to Rock Lee, all that, just through the first viewing. I did it all in one night, because I was that hooked. This was really my first shonen anime. There's some that kind of tip on that, like Slayer's a little bit tips on it, Ranma tips on it a little bit, but this one was my first pure shonen. Most people say, well, what about Dragon Ball? No, not Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z. This was my first introduction to shonen anime. And also my first introduction to downloads. There was a site called Naruto Fan, and I would download the most recent episode and manga as it was coming out. And I still read the manga as it was coming out all the way to the end. And now that it's finally ended here, well, not really, because there's Boruto, but the official Naruto manga ends when Shippuden ends, essentially, story-wise. So one could say it is an ending point. But I remember watching it all those years ago and how excited I was that this was getting an actual physical release. It was also my first experience with long, painful filler arcs.
Which is one reason why I declared that I wanted to read the manga before I really tackled Shippuden. I felt like, even though I have watched the entire
I was
first
thinking you
series,
liked the first series, so you liked all the filler arcs, or most of
well,
them.
you could tell the difference. You really could. But I am enjoying the manga. Like I said, I'm enjoying the Chunin exam.
So, my last two were ones that I was introduced to by a friend of mine named Brittany. And one was my very first experience, like his first experience, with slice of life anime. But it was a different anime that introduced me. It was an older anime. And that is the anime Azumanga Daioh.
Ah.
A great anime, also following high school girls, by the way.
Actually, in fairness, that one may or may not have come before Lucky Star. I can't remember. But it is a good one.
There's her dad. Or God, if you look at Pony Pony and Poami. But this is a fairly old set, an old ADV release. It has been re-released since, and it is a really great series following these high school girls and their daily lives in class. And it was just something very new for me. I mean, there had been American slice of life shows I've seen before, like Cheers, or Frasier, or Seinfeld. Most sitcoms.
Yeah.
And this was really the anime version of that. I was quite happy with this because I preferred this over the American versions of them. It's just, a lot of stuff that you look through and you say, hey, that's something that I go through. I mean, that's what slice of life's all about.
Yeah, you got the country girl that they call Osaka who is always going, get it together, get it together, get it together, get it together. And then she looks really spacey because she's too busy going, get it together.
And
my favorite part is Sakura, not Sakura, Sakaki, the tall, cool, silent type who loves cats, and they hate her and despise her, and she ends up adopting an Irimoti cat, which is not possible. That cat is got so many national and international protections on it. You don't adopt one, but it adopts her and ends up being her guard against the cat that has it in for her. But I like the show, definitely. It's interesting that the show's creator hated it. And in fact, I've been reading a manga that I'm enjoying very much called Yotsuba and, that's from the same author. Yotsuba will never get an anime release because he hated Azumanga Daioh so much. He will never let Yotsuba get adapted. At least that's the story. We'll see if he sticks to it, but...
well, when he needs money.
Right.
But Azumanga Daioh, wonderful series. I love the opening and ender to it, and got me into a slice of lifestyle anime that I have many of today. Would I have been as into Lucky Star or K-On! If I didn't see this first? Who knows? So the final one is an anime series that is very close to my heart, and is the first anime series that actually truly made me feel any type of emotion, like really straight out, like emotion. And that would be Kinos Journey.
Ah.
You were thinking Grave of the Fireflies, weren't you? That made me feel a different type of emotion. But this one I actually watched and wanted to watch again. And I have watched it again and again. And if they ever decided to release a full series release, not
great.
this,
That would be awesome.
I will maybe upgrade. But until then, this is a great box set. ADV made some good box sets back then. Pretty decent chipboard, though it does tear over time. It is still a cool set. And it stars this character here, Kino, and her motorcycle, which, let's see if they actually have a
Hermes.
Hermes, which is not really well pictured. It's kind of, you just have to
Right.
see it on like the logo there,
Yeah.
or you can kind of see it in the background here.
Is he on the spine? Well, no, it's still
Nope.
it's a logo. Yeah.
So, as they go through various stories, and it's great because you can just pick them up and put them down as you go. You could put, other than two-parters, there are some two-parters in here, but you could put out most any episode, and so long as you had enough room for 2 episodes, you'd be fine. Putting it anywhere in the series is a great pick up and put down series, and there were some scenes in that almost made me cry at the time. And that was one of the first times anime has ever managed to touch me in that way, emotionally. I didn't feel kind of used like I did with Grave of the Fireflies, and I felt, like I said, genuinely touched with the series. Whereas the other series, they're great. I've brought me a lot of joy, but not quite in that manner.
I think some of them do offer emotional moments. Like, one of the things that's really cool about Naruto is that there are some genuine emotional moments that are not quite as deep as a cut as Kinos Journey, but definitely some.
And see, I'm looking for depth, because all of them, even Kodacha has serious moments here and there. Or even, well, yeah, even Slayers, as you get into some of the later series. But to me, this was the first time that I really felt a deep emotional connection in a series.
Cool. It's
So,
one of the ones that gives me the most, which is one of the reasons why it was so high on both of our lists for best series.
it is a really good series. And almost all of these, all of the ones in my 10, honorable mentions notwithstanding,
Honorable mention.
would be recommended. Though maybe not so much Venus Wars, because Venus Wars I think is more of a nostalgic. But most of these I still consider good series, and even Venus Wars I consider a well done series. I mean, well done movie, at least animation wise, and just enjoyable. So with that, I hope you've enjoyed our journey through Nostalgia Land as we talk about the things that influence us the most. So we'll be taking a break on our next top 10 list to celebrate the arrival of the Criterion sale in July. But anime is not far behind, as we will come back with our top 10 anime feature films / specials.
Which we are both wading through, film after film
Yes.
after film.
You'll get a preview of that in next week's vlogcast.
Yes.
Or actually, week after next vlogcast, technically.
True.
So we will then see you on the next one.
Goodbye.